Wind at 3, 64 degrees now at Newsradio 600 WMT and the morning show. Welcome to the Newsmaker line to Sharon Alexander. She's the CEO of the Unicorn Children's Foundation. That's a Florida-based nonprofit. It offers resources to families who have children with learning disabilities. Sharon, good morning and welcome to the program. How is your Tuesday going?
Good morning, Doug. Thank you for having me back. Listening to your weather forecast sounds like it might be a little nicer up there than it is down here.
Yeah, we've really gotten to the point where things are doing better. We had such a hot one this last week. We had heat indices up to 105, 110. So we're in the middle of a nice cool down right now. Right here. Hey, we talked to you before, and I wanted to bring you back because we didn't get to have a really good long conversation. I want you to talk a little bit about the unique ways that nonprofits today are having to figure out ways to raise funds in an era where there are a lot of people who are just not willing to go to in-person large events. And it's just the way that it is. And there's only so much that GoFundMe and online events can do. Talk to me a little bit, Sharon, about how you're seeing different organizations work through this time.
Well, fundraising, you talk about a cool down. Well, in the nonprofit world, a cool down didn't happen with the pandemic. There's an increased demand for services and support, and we've got to get a little more creative in terms of the vehicles that we use to raise funds. The fundraising is critical to both our short-term and long-term stability, but it's really about understanding the donors' charitable goals and educating them about various vehicles that can align their goal with these vehicles. So, for example, when we talk about special events, they're very labor intensive, but they have a low return on investment. So when an organization hosts an event, you're really looking about 50 cents per dollar being raised coming back to the organization. 35% is optimal, but it's really labor intensive. So we've got to look at how do we diversify our plan that will create that stability and keep us from being overly dependent on one source of revenue, which is really dangerous. We saw it in 2008. We've now seen it again with the pandemic. So nonprofit leaders really need to be proactive in diversifying whatever strategy they have. No one area of revenue should make up more than 25% of your total income. So with the pandemic, direct mail, we've seen a really big increase. These are letters to your donors or new prospects, educating them about how their investments are impacting the lives of those you serve. We've all been inundated with emails. So now when you get a piece of mail in your mailbox, you have a much higher likelihood of opening that piece of mail because emails have really become diluted. Text messaging campaigns, we're seeing open rates of 98%. I mean, I'm sure, you've got everybody has their phone with them. As soon as that little ding goes off, the first thing you're doing is opening that text message to see what's there.
And real quick, I'm going to stop you right there because that's one of those huge things that I'm hearing more and more about is the use of text messaging because it just goes completely around the email because you don't have the long drawn out emails. It goes around the phone calls because you don't have I don't know what number that is. If you get a text message, you're opening it up no matter who it is.
Exactly. And now there's a lot of automation systems that you can put a link directly into your donation page on your website. So for individuals who are interested in your cause, it's just a one-click and done kind of situation. And we know efficiency is really critical as we, continue down this path.
Yeah.
This year in particular, the Google searches for wills, your last wills and estates have increased exponentially. So at Unicorn Children's Foundation, we have intentionally created a legacy giving program where individuals can use a variety of vehicles to make sure that the organizations that they have supported throughout their lifetime will continue to be sustained long beyond their time on this planet. So, we've been fortunate that we had a few individuals in the past who left us significant funding through residual estates. They didn't have children, so they chose the charities that they wanted to. They made their intentional gifts to the loved ones or friends, and then what was remaining from that, we were able to receive a percentage of that estate. I, for one, did that back in March. I've never had a will before, but I thought it was really important to leave a percentage of my estate to the organization. Won't impact what my child will receive from that. And we have on our website, unicornchildrensfoundation.org, we have an entire educational piece on how individuals can use that vehicle, not only to ensure that, where their investment is going, but how they can actually trade taxable dollars for charitable gifts.
Sharon, if you want to include me in the will, it's Wagner. Just want to make sure that you have that. Sharon Alexander is the CEO of Unicorn Children's Foundation. That she's the head of a Florida nonprofit that offers resources to families with children who have learning disabilities. But we're talking about something other than that. We're talking about really how to run a nonprofit. I actually was the president and CEO of a nonprofit housing agency here in the Cedar Rapids metro area for 2 years. And one of the things that I think that is most difficult but can be most rewarding is making sure that you have the opportunity to do the estate planning with specified individuals, because it really is everybody should have a will, number one, but number two, you can really have them reach into their legacy and put something together for you. I fear that smaller nonprofits and younger nonprofits, they completely overlook that to the point where it's really, because they're looking for that next dollar. They're not looking for the next decade's dollar.
Correct. And, and the interesting thing with the estate planning, we so often go into buildings and see people's names on walls and overhangs and, the legacy planning, you don't have to have a sizable account to leave a residual portion of your estate. Mm-hmm. That 1% of your estate, that could become over time something very significant and meaningful to a nonprofit. So it really takes, it opens the doors for more donors to be part of that bigger, longer-lasting campaign. You don't have to have the 6, 7, 8 figures in your bank account in order to participate in a legacy society and ensuring that the mission and vision of the organization continues to proceed in the longer term.
There you go. This is exactly the kind of conversation I wanted to have with you, and that's exactly why I brought you back on the program, because you're a genius. I mean, it's one of those things where people need to hear these. You could give the seminar. I mean, I would imagine you probably do teach nonprofit academies, don't you?
We are in the process of doing that. Again, we were very lucky to have received 3 unsolicited estates that have sustained us through 2008 and the pandemic. But this year we went on an intentional plan to really educate our donors, because there are so many vehicles, whether it's donating appreciated stocks, whether it's donor advised funds. They are required to give a certain percentage of their
assets,
returns back to nonprofit organizations, mm-hmm. and that doesn't impact their daily spending. So, right. It's really about educating the donors on how they can best utilize their assets, and instead of paying them to the government, using them for charitable gifts instead.
Find out more about Unicorn Children's Foundation by the website's name, unicornchildrensfoundation.org. And also, I mean, it's, again, I'm not fluffing you, Sharon. You are one of the smartest people I know, and that's exactly why I needed to have you back on the show, because I think that we have a lot of people who work for nonprofits, who are on boards of nonprofits, who need to hear the wisdom that you have. And I really appreciate you bringing it to my listeners.
Thank you, Doug. It's been my pleasure.
All right, Sharon, you have a great day. Thank you very much. Tuesday, August 3rd of 2021, 8:26 now on the morning show. Weather, farm markets for you as well. Fox News headed your way.